I'm still in spooky season mode, and what is scarier than an alien xenomorph? It's terrifying, relentless, and now it's hanging on my wall. What drew me to this print is that you get to snip, heat, and bend this print. Sounds like fun, right? Next on Tina Tries. Today's project is this really cool Alien Xenomorph wall hanging. This one used a few different techniques, one of which I hadn't tried before, so this was a lot of fun to build and relatively easy. This file is by Toby and can be found on MakerWorld. I printed this on an H2D and an X1 carbon. I used black PLA, black PETG, and a silver silk PLA. I sized this file up to 103% just to make it slightly bigger for my wall, but you can size this up as much as you want to. This print took 17 hours total and about 420 grams of filament. This build requires the use of a hairdryer or a heat gun, some wire snips, and a little bit of super glue. As usual, everything will be linked in the description below. Let's check out the build. Here are the printed parts. So today I am going to assemble this really cool xenomorph from Alien. This particular build is going to use a few different techniques. First, I'm going to use the 3D printing pen to fill this hole in the tail. This was a printing error on my end. The piece broke off while it was printing, so I'm just going to fill it in with some of the PETG filament that I used to print this in with my 3D printing pen. And if I need to, I might smooth it out a little bit with my wood burner, but we'll see. Then we have this really cool grate that we are going to cut and use a hair dryer to bend like it's being pushed out so that it looks like the xenomorph is pushing through this grate. So that should be interesting. First, I am gonna plug in my 3D printing pen. Let's see, print temp is 230. So I'm going to raise my temperature here and let this heat up. And then I'm gonna take out this PLA strand that's in here and put in a piece of the PETG so that it matches what I printed the figure in. All right, let's back this old filament out. And we're going to put the new filament in. There's a hole in the back here, and then there's a button to feed it into the pen. All right, so the PETG is extruding. So I'm just going to very carefully and very slowly try and patch up this hole on the tail. All right, so that looks pretty good. I think I am gonna try and smooth it out a little tiny bit with my wood burning tool. So I'm going to turn off my 3D printing pen and plug that in. I think I will use my flat end for that. So I'm gonna take off this pointy one and attach the flat end and then just smooth it out a tiny bit. I'm gonna set it to a medium temperature. I don't wanna melt all of the plastic. I just want it to smooth out a little tiny bit. There we go. That worked pretty well. It's still shiny like the rest of the print, and now there's no gaping hole in his tail. The base of this has actual cutouts for each of the pieces. He's got a hand that goes here, there's a hand that goes here, his tail goes here, and of course, the head goes here. So this is great because we can tell exactly where we need to cut the grate in order to make it peel away like the xenomorph is pushing through. All right, so I'm gonna start with this bottom hand first because that should be the easiest piece to peel away. I am going to be using a hairdryer. And we're just gonna soften up this silk PLA here. And hopefully it will bend out of the way like I hope. Well, that's lovely. That just peeled right out of the way. Very cool. All right, let's see how that looks. Well, that is cool. Let's move on to the second hand here. I think I'm going to cut this so that I can get it to peel away in sections. So I'm just gonna use my little wire cutters here. And let's see, maybe right here. Let's take it out, heat it up, and we'll bend it out of the way. Almost. I want this section here to be out of the way. A little bit further. That's nice. I like it. Next, let's do the tail section here. So this goes in here like that. I'm gonna cut these two so that I can bend this section up. And then these two down. Let's try that. Let's see. It needs a little bit more on the top here. See how that looks. Make sure the hands still fit in here. Nice, I like it. All right, so the last section that we need to do is for the head, which is a pretty big area. I want it to look like it's curling from all sides. So I need to plan how and where I am going to cut this. I do want this top section to come up and the side sections to go out. I'm gonna cut it here. And then this whole section can peel up, and I'm gonna cut this down the middle so that this side can go that way and this side can go that way. One more cut here and right here. Let's see how that does. I'm going to bend and heat at the same time. So just kind of hold them in place while it cools a little bit. That way it stays in the direction you want it to be in. Not quite yet. So I need a little more peel here at the bottom. So I think I'm gonna cut it here so that it folds down there. And then I can move this section and smush this one a little bit out of the way. I think that looks pretty cool. Next up is gluing everything into place. So since this guy is really well integrated here, I'm just gonna put glue on here and glue his head down first. Make sure that my grate is in there how I want it, and then I'll glue pieces of this grate down, probably around the edges. Nothing crazy. I don't want the glue to show through in my finished piece. This time I am using miter apple without the activator spray. And I'm just gonna hold it into place until it sets for a couple of seconds. There we have our Xenomorph's head in place. So now I wanna kind of do a little bit of adjustment on the grate so that it's a little more even in this frame. So I'm gonna heat up this top section here and pull that back a little bit so that I can straighten it out. Now I'm gonna glue a couple of sections on the back side of this grate down, just with little dots of glue to keep it in place. And we're gonna slide this back over the Xenomorph's head, put it into place and hold it down. Next up, I'm going to put in its right hand, and I'm gonna bend this section out of the way a little bit with the heat. Next up, we'll glue the tail. There we have the tail and his right hand. So let's do this last hand on the bottom here. I'm gonna move this little section out of the way, and then I'm gonna do some more bending of the grate just because it's cool and it's really fun to do. And there we have his left hand. So I want to do some more bending around the tail. It's not really enough for my taste, so I'm gonna do some more bending. Just made the bend around here a little bit crazier, a little more chaotic looking. Next, we have these little decorative rivets here that we are going to glue into place in each of the 4 corners. There we go. This guy has a little alien for in his mouth, and his teeth are black right now. So I am going to paint the teeth on this little guy and on the big xenomorph, and then we will glue this little guy inside of the xenomorph's mouth. All right, so I'm gonna start with a kind of beige color and add a bit of white to it. That way we get kind of a bone color as opposed to just bright white teeth. And there we have the teeth. Let's glue this little guy into the xenomorph's mouth. And there we have the little guy in his mouth. Very cool. As one final bit, I'm gonna try and bend this grate out a little bit more, see if I can get it to stay away from the plate, just to tinker with it. Let's see if one of my flat tools can help a little bit. Yeah, there we go. So I have this flat tool. It's actually helping me pry it away from the faceplate a little bit. If I leave it under there like that, it will cool a little bit and keep it away from the plate. So that's what I'm gonna do a little bit more around this top part of the xenomorph. All right, and then I think I'm gonna do a little bit right here and on this side, and then we will call this one done. Maybe a little bit on this side too. And there is our finished xenomorph. Here is the finished xenomorph. This one was a lot of fun. I really like how this turned out. I love the shiny finish on the PETG. It definitely gives it an otherworldly look. I actually had a lot of fun fixing the hole in the tail here with my 3D printing pen and my wood burning tool. I think I've gotten slightly better at it than I was in my Mickey episode, but I still need some more practice. Hopefully you will not have to do this, since that was just a printing error on the part of my printer and not anything wrong with the files themselves. Here are my rankings for this project. Ease of printing, I'm gonna give this one a 7. I did actually have to print this a couple of times. I slightly scaled up the file because I wanted it to be a little bit bigger for my wall. By default, this file is set on 11 different plates, so I just consolidated as many pieces printing in the same color onto one plate as I could. I had to reprint this because I used PETG supports on my PETG part, and my top interface spacing was not set correctly. That caused my supports to completely fuse to my pieces, which made removing them impossible. And almost all of the xenomorph's teeth came out. So I used PLA for supports instead. Now, the Bamboo software kept telling me not to mix PLA with PETG in my prints, but I ignored that, and I am very glad that I did. The PLA supports with a top interface spacing of 0.5 millimeters worked really well with normal supports and with tree supports. I used tree supports on the head. That made removing them and not breaking out the xenomorph's teeth really easy. I used normal supports for the tail so that it could completely cradle it as it was being built, and that also worked out pretty well. Speaking of the teeth, if you really do not want to paint, there is also a setting on the file to have a dual color print so that its teeth will be white when it comes off of the printer. Ease of assembly, I am going to give this one a 9. This was really fun to put together. All of the pieces fit together really well straight off the printer, so really all you need is a bit of super glue. The cutouts on the background board piece here made it really easy to place everything where it needed to go, so assembly is a breeze. It was oddly satisfying to heat that silk PLA and bend it backwards and make it into whatever configuration I wanted it to be in around the Xenomorph. That was something I hadn't done before, and it was really fun. It took a little bit of patience to hold each piece in place while it cooled, but you can always go back, heat it up again, and bend it even further, so you can keep morphing the design as you please. Because I used PET G on the pieces of the Alien, it made it easy to go back and manipulate the PLA grate after the fact. I could heat it up and bend it some more without affecting my PET G pieces because those melt at a much higher temperature. So if you use PET G on your Alien, you can always go back and work on the grate later and make it more dynamic. If you are a fan of the Alien movies, I definitely recommend this print. That's gonna do it for this episode. If you enjoyed this video and you wanna see more of this type of content, please consider liking and subscribing. Leave me some project suggestions in the comments section below, and I will see you on the next one.